Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Economic Times listening sessions brought to you by Economic Times Edge. And with me today is a very, very elusive and a very, very, a man who likes to hide behind the camera, but we have been fortunate enough to bring him in front of it. The man who has given us fantastic entertainment by way of Inside Edge and Mirzapur. Please welcome Karan Anshuman. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being here. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
And thanks for having us also enjoy your view from the 35th floor.
Well, yeah, now that you guys are practically in my house, you might as well enjoy it. I find that lockdown has sort of imposed a lot more people are more into your family life, and, they're hearing your kids and they pretty much know what your daily schedule is like. It's no longer restricted to like work hours. So I think we've all sort of crept into each other's lives a little more, right?
No, of course, I think, and because of now technology is the only way for us to keep track with what everybody else is doing. And since everybody's in the house, then yes, we get to be in everybody else's houses as well also. So yeah. But that's great. But then, Karan, you've been very much a family man all along anyway. Whenever obviously when you're not working, you're off taking holidays and, enjoying your time with your family a lot as well also. So
it's been very hectic last 5 or so years, and I haven't really had time for that much with family. So that's why if there is a holiday, then they're gonna be there. So because it's been really, really tough. So I'm really, in a way, the only silver lining of this whole lockdown is that I've got to spend a lot of uninterrupted time, especially with my 5-year-old daughter, and who I used to see, every Sunday, because her school hours and my waking hours used to always sort of were mutually exclusive. So I'm really thankful for that one aspect of this chaos around us.
It's like when you asked, where are you going for vacation this year? Oh, we're staying home. Yeah, look at the lovely sights from the 35th floor. You can see the whole of Bombay from there.
I don't think 5-year-olds care that much for, I've taken her to some exotic places, but she's happy to, be with me in the kitchen and, whipping something up for her. That's an equally fun thing to do as, I don't know, say taking a boat ride in Cuba or something. I don't know. So she's quite happy.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's another way of because at the end of the day, how do you explain to a 1-year-old what is happening? I mean, what are the kind of questions that that you might think that you might be asking, like, why are we stuck in our house for so long? What is happening?
Well,
how do you?
For a 5-year-old, their questions are extremely on the ball. They know exactly what they're talking about, and even if they have a wind of what the concept might be, they catch on pretty quickly. And it's not that, like, she constantly surprises me. Like yesterday, she said something so deep that I was absolutely astounded. She said, the earth is real, but the countries are not. I said, what do you mean countries are not? And then she said, countries are drawn. Like, I only see them in, drawn like in books or whatever. I've never seen a country. I was like, okay, that's really deep and intellectual.
Absolutely.
Nice.
The lines are only drawn on paper, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, that's something I really believe in. And, I always think of myself as a sort of world citizen and humanity as one, etc. So I was really, really thrilled that she's also sort of catching on. And it wasn't me like sort of spoon feeding her or anything. It just happened.
She's definitely on the right track,
Absolutely.
And with the right guidance as well also. So that's really nice.
All that matters.
Speaking of worlds, you've managed to create a couple of interesting worlds in recent times. Of course, one is the world that we already know exists, but you've managed to take us like deep into the dirt and the murk of it via Inside Edge. Let's talk about that first. Obviously your love for the game and comes through very much in it. What was it like creating that world and imagining how can I interweave a lot of reality into this fictional tale?
I think the Inside Edge was pretty easy to sort of put together because there's just so much dirt out there. Just to give you a sense of what happened, when we were researching, the writers and I ended up meeting a lot of people who were connected to the game, and especially to franchise cricket. So there was people I spoke to who were everyone, like from team managers, CEOs to rookies who had joined in, and these are all characters, of course, in the show. But the kind of things they said to me, like I had to, literally tone that down to 10-15% of what I heard. They'd all be like, this is too much. So to keep it believable, we had to really tone down the truth and just use some of it. And that's what happened. Yeah. So there's just so much info, uh, and interesting info that makes for great drama in that world of cricket meeting entertainment, that it was very easy to sort of keep culling down stuff and making a nice sharp show out of that. And that's what I hope we did.
Yeah, because I mean, each and every character that was created has his, I mean, his or her own track and and backstory and journey to it as well. Also, and all of that comes through really very strong. And and all the actors portraying those characters as well also have managed to do a fantastically good job. I mean,
Yeah.
casting is a huge thing. Uh, are you? I mean, of course, you take a call on every single piece of casting that happens. Uh, how hard did you have to look for? I mean, what is the most difficult character that you have to cast?
See, everything about Inside Edge, the first season was really tough because it was the first big show, so to speak, on a platform, streaming platform, back in what was it, 3 years ago. We have come such a long way. I mean, we're making so many such great shows now and things. But
Sure.
that one was something we started at a time when there wasn't there. Amazon didn't even exist as a streaming
Sure.
platform. Netflix was nowhere on the scene in India, of course. And the
Yeah.
only real show that had come was, I think, House of Cards on Netflix. So that was really the only reference point, and the only the other stuff was all the shows that we have, which was on mainstream sort of American television or the network stuff, right? But so we had to figure out how it works in a writer's room. We had to figure out what it is like to sort of work with a team of people. Even so, I think casting pretty much followed that same pattern where very few actors sort of trusted us with what we were doing at the time, and they couldn't quite see what we were going for. So really, hats off to all the guys who put their weight behind the first season, especially Richa and Vivek and all these guys. So, and but having said that, I mean, even while we were shooting, no one really knew. I'd like to say, except for me and maybe Ritesh and a couple of other guys, Kasim, for example, from Excel, who sort of knew what we were going for, where we wanted to end up. And I was genuinely happy to see the surprise, the happy surprise and shock that they had on their faces when we had like screenings and things. And after that, of course, then we had the first season, and then a bunch of other cool things happened with other people and other shows, and it became so much easier to cast for shows subsequently. We were lucky enough to have you in the second season, and I don't know if you'd have done the first one. So I'm really thankful for that. But yeah, so Luke, was it fun for you to be part of Inside Edge, and how was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what happens in season 3 now, whenever it lands. So it'll be an interesting story to see what happens, because in the first, as it happens with most of the stories like these, the first, a season you spend setting up the characters. The second one, you have a bit of a journey, and then you don't know whether to resolve them, add closure or the doors open, so to speak, depending on how the story flows. So, I mean, it's exciting to be able to create those kind of worlds as well, also knowing that it's not going to end in 2 hours. You have a good 10 episodes to do all of this and beyond as well.
Oh, absolutely. I love the idea that you don't have to follow a formula. And I think that's where some of the best writing is happening on television and streaming right now, because, that whole idea of having a formula of a film like 2 hours, 2.5 hours is just out the window. Like, you don't have a hero, you don't have your traditional journey of a hero. the conflict and the journey and then the resolution at the end.
Absolutely.
Um, and characters who you portray as sort of negative, you end up having sympathy for them at some point, and you're like questioning yourself while watching it, like, what am I doing? Why am I feeling bad for this guy? And vice versa. And I
Sure.
really like that. So I think we really stepped it up in season two. I thought it went beyond one in many ways. I think and a lot of contribution of that was because we had the actors figured out who they were as characters, and they sort of, and because the baggage of trying to set that up was gone, it was easier to just get into the flow and move with it. We definitely had a lot more money, which meant a better, bigger scale to travel and shoot in more exotic locations. So I think the show looks amazing. I think Akash, who directed most of the episodes, did a fantastic job of sort of the look of the show, and he managed to capture what we were going for in an even better way, because this is one of those shows where it's about the rich and famous and the celebrity rarefied atmosphere that they uh, occupy. And I think we did that even better in two because we had so much more money to shoot. I remember like shooting season one, and we were just always fighting to make a frame that looked rich, so to speak. And I remember like once my production is and I walked into a hotel room and I'm like, okay, this is a good canvas, and now let's make it. She said it's already done. Like, this is all the budget we have. It was like very little that had changed from the original room that we had. So we went from there and we came a long way in two. And I think in three, what we are trying is to sort of reinvent the show in a way, because I think we've had a lot of, so there's a lot of changes coming up in three. And I find that I feel that it would just get too repetitive if we kept doing the same thing about franchise and T20 and this and that. So we just moved a little bit away from there, and there are, let's just say, national interests in mind for the
Yeah,
third season.
absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens in three. Jumping to another absolutely different, world in contrast to Inside Edge. From cricket, the politics of cricket, we jump into the murkiness of politics in UP and gangsterism and everything else with Mirzapur. That must have been some creative process.
Um, it's a process, but it's so cool because we finished delivering Inside Edge at, I think, 2 a.m. The last episode, final, post is locked, everything, and it's just been uploaded. And 5 o'clock in the morning, we leave for a recce from Mirzapur to Banaras, and that's how quickly we got into that show, basically, and all of us. And we spent a couple of months, on prep, really hardcore prep. It was just continuous. Like, I can't even remember like sort of um, taking any time off or anything of that sort. It was just continuous. Get in there, shot it. Again, we went. I think Mirzapur was a result of a lot of great collaborations.
Sure.
We got a fantastic cast for it, which we really lucked out on, uh, and they really helped take it beyond, say, what it was, say, on paper, right? And for me, that what Pankaj Party and Ali and Divyendu and Vikrant, all these guys did, and of course the girls, like, they were so good. All of them really brought their A game, and there was hardly a note wrong. I thought in the way they performed and went about that. So that helped a lot. And also shooting in Mirzapur or Banaras is much more easy shooting in UP, because you literally point the camera, you're already in the world there. So
Of
it was
course.
very different from setting up what we did for Inside Edge. So lots of things that we were struggling with on Inside Edge, whether it was casting, because Inside had like something like 190 speaking parts at a time when no one wanted to do web shows. So it was very difficult to cast for that. And here it was like, people were just like it was like World War Z, man. You have to keep people out of the gates. And you go there, you point the camera anywhere, you have a fantastic frame, because that is your world. Here, we had like silly rules, like, we never want to see like street life in Inside Edge. We don't want to see like a rickshaw ever in any frame. And over here, it's like, where are the goddamn rickshaws? Why are we supposed to be in rickshaw central, for Christ's sakes? So it's that's what was happening. So it just, we went with the flow and it came together wonderfully. And we just got, I mean, the kind of success Mirzapur has had, I think I don't think anyone really expected it. So that was,
I think that's the merit of shooting in actual real locations where you don't have to do much setting as well. Also, it benefits the story in every way. And in fact, that's kind of been a bit of the template for almost a lot of content that has been created in local settings. I mean, whether it's the Ayushmann Khurrana films, which are actually set in the small towns that they're being set in, or even shows like like Patal Lok and stuff like that, which also again is set in real locations. Talking about real people and things like that. But at the meantime, it's not, very little of it is set in studio. Everything is actual real location. But okay, tell us about a bit about Karan Anshuman before Inside Edge and before Mirzapur. What's the trajectory and the journey been like for you?
I don't know. Do you want a short version or a long version?
We have all the time in the world, as somebody once said.
We actually do. Yeah, that's right. When I was like, I don't know, maybe 11 or something, and video games were just sort of coming into our lives, and I'd written to an American company called Apogee. They made a game, an 8-bit game, I remember, and they wrote back saying, they wrote back from America, and they sent me some like stuff, like catalogs and things in like old school snail mail. This in the like late 80s. I was like, wow, these guys are so cool. Like, can you imagine something like that going on in India back then? Never.
No chance.
I got fascinated by, games and graphics and design and this and that, and the idea of, and at the same time, I was also the editor of my school newspaper, and I was sort of into journalism of like whatever school type journalism and writing and things. And so these two things sort of started taking shape. And I was very interested. I was very interested in doing computer graphics and making games, and at the same time being able to tell stories in games. And then, because of this computer thing, I went for my undergrad to do computer science. So I figured that's where my thing lies. And I was good with tech. So I went to do computer science, and then I realized that the structured way of learning computers is a mess. And I went to the US to do undergrad, and I couldn't deal with it, man. So I went to a small liberal arts school. Then I started experimenting. I started doing other things. So I tried everything from art history to astronomy. I just went through the alphabet, I think. And but at some point I reached film, and man, I just like took to it like fish to water. I don't know what to say, man. Like, I was scoring like 120 on 100 like in my exams. I think a lot of that had to do with my father, because he was a filmmaker. He's retired now, and he did some pretty interesting pioneering work in television back in the day. And I also grew up like with that whole his friends and who are all filmmakers, and some of them just made some of the finest films. And they were all like mentors to me in a way. Everyone from Saeed Mirza, Aziz Mirza, Vidhu Vinod Chopra. I remember being on the sets of Mr. India, when Anil Kapoor was shooting. I was there during the post-production of that. I was there in the sound studio when they were creating footsteps of, of an invisible man in Foley. I found none of this interesting or exciting, and I hated it. I was like, get me out of here. Where's lunch? Where's dinner? I'm not interested in this. Because you just grow up in that house, and you're like, and you just see all this stuff every time. And your father is so unlike other fathers of students in, in school and things. And because they go to work in the morning, they're back in the evening, they had home for dinner, and the kids are all right.
Yeah.
And my father was just not there like 6 months, and because he's shooting or he's somewhere traveling, blah blah blah. And the next 6 months he's home because he's writing, and he's just never leaving, and just gets stressful for everyone around. So I hated that life. I hated it. And then this is what happens. Like I figured, oh shit, this is the only thing I know how to do properly. so yeah, I graduated, came back, and then just started off, made a few short films. Then I started, of course, chasing the feature. Now it was about 2002, 2003. Chasing the feature was incredibly tough in those days, or chasing anything doing worthwhile, which is not television basically. I
Yeah.
remember making short films, and they were on such a shoestring budget that sending a courier out to a festival with a physical tape of that, there was no internet, right? There was no YouTube. There was internet, but there's no YouTube, and was more like sending a courier out to a festival was more expensive than actually
No, no, absolutely. Yeah.
making the film.
Yeah.
So I mean, we couldn't do that. It was not a sustainable way to. So I started writing. I wrote a few features on my own, spec scripts, shopped them around. It took me 10 years for it to finally happen. And in
Wow.
between, I tried every gig, including like, and because of the whole writing business and this and that, like I used to, we run a website called Apostol, my friends and I, Karan, Bali, Somal, and I, and we've been running it for about 18 years now, I think. And we used to write about films and cinema and things we liked, and it's someone read some stuff over there. I got a gig from Mumbai Mirror to do their review. So 3-4 years I did all the mainstream. I was the in-house sort of film critic for Mumbai Mirror, and that was a really fun stint because I got to see, like I had to watch every film. Like Meena, who was the editor of Mirror, she used to make sure I used to watch everything, which was
Things with a good.
insane because that was like 150 films or something, right? And out of that, 135 were terrible.
They always. Yeah.
So but that was a
Yes,
great learning experience. That was fun.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, in fact, even though you had all the background of filmmaking, I mean, your father and your father's friends, and you grew up in a filmmaking background, it still wasn't easy, you know. I mean, you still
Yeah,
did.
no, it was not easy. Also, I never tried to use my father's name to get ahead.
Of course, of course.
That was some. I mean, we actually have literally two like different surnames, so it's not even possible for anyone to connect. So that's it's um, but that's how it was. So it's not easy. It's because it was such a closed scene then. It's really easy now, man. Like I feel it's like there's so much stuff to do. If you have an iota of talent, you can just break in like any day
Father,
of the week. I feel that there's actors have opportunity. I think for writers there's a lot of opportunity because there's very few really good writers. I think and the thing is, writing is a craft, so you need to practice and you need to do that on your own.
absolutely.
More than just trying to get on a project and just interning and all that doesn't help. Writing is something you can develop on your own. You can just keep writing scripts and hopefully it just keeps getting better. I think for directors, and that's the big one, like getting a break as a director, again, it's so easy to sort of create your own stuff, small budget stuff, put it on YouTube, put it on, work with smaller crews, get stuff going. And your work can be seen if you have something to show. That wasn't the case back until as late as 2005 or whenever it was that YouTube actually became a real option.
Streaming has changed everything. Yeah.
So it is definitely easier than it was 20 years ago, man.
But coming back to what you've done, I mean, the way you work also. I mean, I've seen the really wonderful side of you, and I mean, everybody's it's a pleasure to work with you and things like that. But what is that a few qualities that you have that you think sometimes gets misunderstood and you get a bad rap?
That is such a specific question, for Christ's sakes. I don't know where you want me to say something. You should just say it. Like,
खामी है तुम में जिसे लोग misunderstand करते हैं हर बार.
I don't know. First of all, I want to say it was great fun working with you, Luke. I thought you were just super professional, and that's all that a director wants with an actor. Like they don't want anything else. They just want you to take the words, make sure you know the lines, and you just keep interpreting them in a way that is yours. And as a director, I like to give space to actors, and tell me what you bring to it, and then we can work together and collaborate and see where we can go with it. And I thought you just had that spot on every time, like every take you had something going and you were bringing something to the table. And that's it's such a pleasure for any director to not be directing actors but just like sort of nudging them along and just getting the best out that you can. And I
I think
love that.
a lot of that comes from also I mean, because both of us are avid film watchers. And more than anything else, that's what keeps inspiring us, educating us, informing us of the processes that go into it. So we know what both sides are feeling, and what the both sides' mindset is at any point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the quicker everyone realizes that it's collaborative, the more stress-free a set is going to be, the more peaceful everyone's going to be about things. Having said that, like one of the misunderstood qualities I think about me that people feel is that I might tend to come across as very authoritarian at some time because I don't know, man. All the collaboration aside, I feel like it has to be still one person's vision in that moment. In that moment.
Of course.
So I don't know. So it's not necessarily like throughout, like one has to just dictate their way through every aspect of filmmaking. Sorry, what were you saying?
That's where the magic happens, I think.
Yeah, and if it's on set, in that moment, if there is a disagreement, I might be like, okay, you know what, that's a good idea, thank you, but I think it doesn't work for this so and so reason. Let's just go and do this. And I feel like on a set, that idea with people who don't have enough experience and who haven't been on enough sets do not understand that it's not something to get mad about.
Absolutely. It never be personal. Yeah.
And it's never personal. And I think that might have happened a few times with people who are on sets, for the first time or the second time in their lives and careers, and it's a bit weird. So, and I'm the same. Like if I'm in a sound studio with my sound designer Vivek, who's done all my work, and he and I are sitting, and if I'm not finding something is working, I look at him and he's like, it's fine, it's working, it will work. This. I'm like, okay. I just surrender because I know he knows better when it comes to sound design or a little technical thing here and there. So that's what it is. And unless I'm completely convinced, I'm not going to. And even if I am, I'm not going to tell him, look, no, just definitely plug this piece of sound in. That doesn't even make sense. Like, well, who am I to say that? It's not my job.
No, absolutely.
So that's I think that's the only that what I described as a misunderstood version of me that could spill over, especially I think in various departments. So it's not just on set or.
Yeah, I know.
I think you should answer this question too. Like, when are you like completely misunderstood about what you do?
This is about you, my friend. Okay, the character that I play, Wolfgang Hummels, loves his coffee.
Yeah,
it's a reflection of you and how much you love your coffee.
Yeah, man. And you know what? This lockdown has really messed around with that love of mine. It's so difficult to source original, nice, fresh beans, and roast them. But yeah.
Which is interesting. So then, how much of your little traits and character attributes like these do you tend to push into, into the fictional character?
I don't have a lot of traits and attributes, to be honest, but I might have a lot of traits and attributes that I aspire to. So a lot of that might make their way in. I don't know. I don't have this very colorful life. I'm quite a boring person, honestly. In the way I live, I try to be very, I don't know, low carbon footprint kind of person. So that involves a lot of taking few showers, for example. I'm joking. I showered every single day.
We all need to be. Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain things I'm very particular about. Like, I'm very particular about like the picture quality of what I'm watching. Like, I hate stuff when it's pixelating, and it just makes me mad. So like, I gotta have like 4K viewing every time. And so that, unfortunately, that means I need to have the bandwidth for that, and I need to have like premium subscriptions to everything, or I need to have like the best possible Blu-rays around me for that. So that's the paraphernalia that comes with that stuff. With the coffee, I don't know. I love coffee, so I try to source good coffee from all over the place, and I love to make my coffee. Sometimes I feel making the coffee is more fun for me than actually having it. So I'm not a big coffee connoisseur in terms of I may not have the kind of that subtle differences that you can tell between this nut and that nut while sipping it. I can do that with whiskey, not so much with coffee. But, but it's the process of making it is great fun for me.
Yeah. But then what's your favorite kind of coffee? Is it the Kenyan, the Ethiopian,
It's I don't really have a favorite coffee, but of late, again to like in the last couple of years, I think some of the best coffee I had was a bunch of coffee I brought back from Cuba, and Cuba is of course famous for coffee, and it was just fab. So
and
I think the African coffees are pretty much in the same space as the Indian stuff, because I feel it's like in the same, I don't know, belt that it's grown in a way. So the temperature and soil and things must be very similar.
yeah.
But I guess you have a lot. 90% of my coffee comes from either Africa or like the Indian estates, and they all are in the same. Not I wouldn't say same, because obviously a lot of them have specific infusions and things going in that make them different. But the base taste of all these coffees are very similar, and I find it very interesting to have really mad exotic stuff coming in from Cuba, or even some of the American stuff that they source from Colombia and things is a little interesting. But
But are you like to
I'm
grind
quite
your
democratic.
get the
Yeah,
beans and
of course. Like I eat, even like roasting the beans, so they come green, and then you roast them, and then you grind them. So it's like as fresh as it can be. And man, I've been having some old coffee right now. It's just
the compromises one has to make during lockdown. What to do?
it's okay. It's absolutely fine. I'm okay with it.
Now, earlier you spoke about the collaborative process. Now, the difference between, as we know, between doing film and stuff for web is that, of course, the length of the content is longer, and you're constructing the web content as episodics. And also, and in the case of film, you have one director whose vision sees through the full 2 hours worth of content. But yes, when it comes to web content, you've got collaborators who are. In the case of Inside Edge, you had Akash and you had Gurmeet, who were also directing. Some episodes. What are the challenges of having? Of course, you have to have the creative people on the same page with you, but they've also got to maintain visual integrity and then of the episodes, because I mean Gurmeet can be off directing one episode, Akash could be off directing one episode or content for one episode, and then you're somewhere else. How does that merging and meshing of creative thought come onto the table finally? How do you maintain that as showrunner?
So, like you said, I've been in that position exactly twice. Once with Gurmeet, once with Akash. With Gurmeet and I go back a very long way. So, our styles or what we came upon was very similar. So, our journey has been, very close in that sense. In fact, both our first films, the short films that we had made way back in 2001, premiered at the exact same festival, back to back, and that's how we met. And we've been working together and collaborating ever since on various things. And so our stuff, like I trust him with stuff, and he goes and does his thing, and vice versa.
No,
So
but
that was never an issue.
I'm saying as directors, you have your individual style. But when it comes to
Yeah,
creating,
but that's what I mean. But with Gurmeet, that wasn't, but too far off, like in terms of, because we planned everything from scratch for Inside Edge. Now the thing with Akash was very different. So Akash came the exact opposite way. We just randomly we were looking for a director. I met him, and I liked his visual sense that I saw in his reel. Lots of ads and stuff he had done, and we met, and it seemed like it. We could work together on. But having so he definitely brought a sort of incremental sensibility to what we were trying to do. Of course, we had the resources and things also this time, so it was easier. But having said that, like, so on set, like, one wouldn't try to get in the way. It was always, you're doing your thing, that's fine. And it was really during the prep and the post where things had to be sorted out. So prep was very smooth. It was good. We knew what we were doing. This, that. He had great grand plans for his episodes. He and I traveled to every location. We went to South Africa to figure out what the real locations looked like, and if some of them had to be recreated as sets, or we shot some of that in Georgia. So we figured a lot of stuff of how it has to look and things. His directing of the actors was absolutely fine. Plus the actors, like I said, had owned the characters by now, and they knew what to bring out of it. So they were collaborating wonderfully. On set, one doesn't really get in the way of a director, no matter what. It was, I think, towards in the post where we had a few disagreements in terms of the edit pattern, because the editor was sort of weighing in. He had a certain idea of doing things. I had a certain idea. So, but you work your way through that. You find compromise. You find what eventually sort of works with you. And there are definitely some things that it didn't turn out or doesn't edit in the way, or play out in the way that he may have envisioned.
Sure.
And definitely some scenes haven't been like at all interpreted in the way like I may have written them. So
Yeah,
both things have happened.
but as long as it fits the bigger creative picture, I think that works.
Absolutely. So it's about trust and about letting go of what you do have. Is a DOP in these situations really helps, right? A DOP can sort of keep that consistent
Yeah.
look and feel throughout, and be your barometer and anchor all at the same time while shoot is on. We had the same editor for both the seasons of Inside Edge, so we had to, that style had to be consistent. That couldn't change a lot. I feel like the rhythm of a show is in its edit, and that's where it really needs to be consistent. You can shoot anything, but that it's the rhythm that you got to feel, and that comes in the edit and the music and other post processes.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that comes from knowing how to keep the scene tight and know when to end the scene in the writing process itself as well. Also, yeah, that's great. You're sitting high up on the 35th floor, but one of your passions is going deep into the sea, into the ocean. You like diving a lot.
Oh yeah.
Tell us a bit about that passion?
I don't know how it started. I think I just randomly did a dive in Sri Lanka or something, and it changed. Like when you go down and you see fish, like some fish came to me, small guys, and it wasn't even diving. It was like snorkeling. I think it was the first time. And when you snorkel and these guys come, and then you're like, you reach out and they swim away and they're gone, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Because they're not in an aquarium, they're not coming back. They're gone. They're out of there. And do it a couple more times, and you realize that it looks different every time. It's not like the ocean, of course, doesn't look the same everywhere. And you think you've seen the world, and you've traveled in, like, I don't know, 50 countries and this and that, but that's still 30% of land, the Earth's surface, and 70% is water. Every time you go down is different, and you see different fish, and you see different, and oh my goodness. And the main thing is, like, it's like an alien life form. This is the closest one can get to going to seeing another planet, and that's my other obsession. Aliens, and not aliens, but space, and the idea of life outside what we're seeing. And
there are these two documentaries. One is by James Cameron called Aliens of the Deep.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing. And then there's one by Werner Herzog called the Wild Blue Yonder, the Great Blue Yonder.
The Herzog one, okay, yeah, I thought it was called, I can't remember the name.
He looks at life under the ice, ice layers of the Antarctic and the Arctic and things like that. Oh, amazing documentary. Yes, great. Yes, alien. Yes.
No, but yeah, so diving became so I haven't done a lot. I mean, it's still like it's under 100 dives or whatever, and there are people who have done like thousands. And,
for the average person.
But I am like,
most of the
like, if I had to retire, it would be doing this. Like, I just want to be close to the ocean and just be able to go out and dive. Like, that would be my thing, because it's a great, you just feel great because you don't know how to talk to people. That's the first thing, right? and you're just like, in your space, and just, it's very meditative. It's also it's also meditative and adrenaline pumping at the same time. Like, it's a weird mix of both.
So also it gives great pause in sense that you realize how insignificant you are, you know.
And that reminder needs to keep coming back every time. Like I keep and it might get to you at some point, like you overthink, like you know about the pale blue dot and the idea of Kalsakamani, the last photograph the Voyager took when it was leaving the solar system. They just had enough power to turn around and shoot the Earth, and it's just that one pixel of blue, right?
Yes.
And you can have a lot of questions about existence and
Yes.
what are we doing, what is the meaning of life, etc. And um, and it can get to you after a point, but I think the diving does it nicely. It sort of mixes it up nicely because you're meeting new fish all the time, and you're always sort of curious. They are curious, you're curious, you're seeing all sorts of things that you didn't think or knew existed. um I love it. I love it.
So what's been your most memorable dive, and where, rather? I mean,
Well, I think the most memorable dive was the first time I saw was the early days of of my diving, when I saw a manta ray
oh,
coming towards me for the first time. And these guys are like 3 to 5 meters big, right? And when they flap their wings and they come with such grace and they're huge. And I didn't know what was happening. Like you've seen stingrays before, and they are massive, but these guys are even bigger,
yeah.
and they look beautiful. They just and for me, that moment of seeing my first manta ray was so great that I went and got them tattooed on my
Oh,
arm. I don't know how to keep them.
fabulous, fabulous,
Yeah, there you go. So
excellent, very cool.
it was a great moment for me. It's most memorable.
It's like the arrival of the Imperial Star Destroyer in A New Hope.
Okay, I would go with more Close Encounter of the Third Kind, when the alien ship finally comes and you're like, yes.
That of course. Oh, by any standards.
There's a friendliness about them. So let's not say it's like the
Yeah,
like
well, yeah, that's a great analogy. Great film as well, also. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I love that.
So, I mean, yes, your passion's one side. It's underwater and it's space. Yet your creations are very, very rooted in absolute reality. Uh, is there a thought process to that, or is there a greater story that you're developing, which will come in the future?
Yeah,
With
no, I'm very interested in telling human stories, because that's at the end of the day what we're here for, I feel. And I think this lockdown has given us great perspective, man. I really hope this lockdown has worked at a cinematic level almost, with what's happening. It's really, I think when we emerge from this pandemic, we're going to be a changed species. At least I hope we are, and I'm hoping we are, and I hope that people realize what privilege means. I hope they realize what it means to be where you are, and and that's what one is always sort of working towards, even in your films. Inside Edge is a bit of an exception for me, but even there we have sort of weaved in a few social themes, like in the Devender and Siddhant Prashant track. But for me, like my film Bangistan was about religion, and how religion is a bit pointless in the scheme of things, and how we're all the same, and it's just like a label that you have.
yeah.
You can't take seriously. It's fine. Keep it to yourself, and if it gives you solace in some way, that's about it. So I try to make a point with satire in that, because making an overt film about religion is not okay. I thought Mirzapur, I was really excited about, because it really talked about sort of lower middle class angst of youth in small towns, and how there's a lack of opportunities for them, and what it might do. That was the point of it. Um, Going forward, offline, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and there's interesting themes that continue. But coming back to the pandemic, with this whole migration that's happening of laborers, and making their way back, it is heartbreaking, heartrending. And I really hope that people see that where they are, and how wealth accumulation cannot be the end goal for anyone. That is not something that we need. And I hope that people realize that we need, there has to be more sharing. There has to be more idea of sort of taking people along with you on that journey. And that is something that it was always there, but now it's so acute that I don't think I can sleep without, making sure that something has been done in some capacity to help people, or to at least make people aware that there's something that you can do. And you don't have to do it with money, you can do it with time, you can just do it with a little bit of will. That's all you really need and to open your eyes and just look around you and not be okay with what's happening. If anyone is like, this is fine, or then there's a problem. But I'm hoping that people emerge from this a bit wiser about humanity and more humanitarian in their wisdom.
In all the years that in all the years that you've traveled and things like that, we always generally tend to accumulate a lot of things, a lot of curios and artifacts and prized possessions. What are the 5 most things that you're proud of owning or having acquired?
I don't have anything. I really don't. I don't acquire and collect things. To be honest, I just don't.
Okay, what are the 5 most important things that you have at your work desk that need to be there? Otherwise, you cannot work.
4K monitor. It's just like. No, man. I am not a big fan of things per se. And even like I used to like books, but now with Kindle, it's very difficult to even buy books because why take up space when you don't need to, right? I'm trying to think of what do I own that. I was thinking about this. Like, if I were to leave, what would I pick up, right? What would be the first thing you pick up from your house and leave if there's a fire? And I couldn't think of one single thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe my phone or something. But that's because I need it.
Those are essentials. I mean, we're not really talking.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Let me see.
Like a science script or something like that, that you acquire, or a life-size Darth.
I have some Star Trek memorabilia lying around my house and things, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just like,
yeah.
I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I am this weird combination where I'm okay with both of them, and I have a bunch of Darth Vader, masks and things. But I could check them out of the window right now. I don't care.
So are you also critical of the prequels and the sequels and an original trilogy purist, or you're like equal love to the whole saga?
Oh man, of course I'm an original trilogy purist. For Christ's sakes, everything else is a sham. For Christ's sakes. Like literally, like the best Star Wars is the one not directed by George Lucas, right? Like Irvin Kershner doing Empire Strikes Back. It's just it's one of those, and it's like, so 4, 5, 6 followed by
1, 2, 3 and then 7, 8, 9.
Nah, I'd go with 7. Yeah, that's it. Like everything else is garbage.
What? Really?
Come on, man. 1 was the worst thing that I've ever seen. Like after all those years and going and seeing that, 1 was just unbelievable. What was that guy's name? The stupid guy. Like he was like the worst character of all time in any film. Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks, yes.
Yeah, Jar Jar Binks. And then 9, which I was so looking forward to. Like JJ did a great job with 7 because it was just pure nostalgia. He just tapped into the exact same beats. There was similar visuals and everything, so it just worked for me at that level, because I was like, yes, this is like revisiting Star Wars, but it's not actually seeing it again, it's seeing it for the first time. That's what he went for, and he got it like perfectly, which he did with the new Star Trek also, the one before the Khan episode. And then 9, for example, it was the ultimate Avengersification of Star Wars, where I was like, no, man, they made it for like 12-year-olds again. That's not what this is about. There are adult themes that we gotta be here doing. And this philosophy, you can't like simplify this to nonsense like this. I hate the Avengers, by the way. I'm all Scorsese on the Avengers.
But yeah, I mean,
Which is why I love zombies, right? Which is why we love zombies, because zombies make for great metaphors.
always.
And zombies are the ultimate metaphor, uh, to work with in cinema. I feel you can
And
just transpose anything. Romero did it with capitalism in Dawn of the Dead, and he did it with whatever. There's just so much that we can do.
and you can't manipulate the genre to fit any kind of audience. You've got to let the genre speak for itself.
Yes, and Walking Dead, like there are metaphor for how people, sometimes the least of your problems is the Walking Dead and it's other people. For example.
Yeah. Oh wow. So having a great knowledge of cinematic history and pop culture history as well. Also, if there was one historical figure that you'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with and talk everything under the sun with, like we are, who would it be?
Okay, why don't you answer this question for me first?
Oh, I would say the list is very long, but they're all dead.
Yeah, of course they're all dead. Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise, you would be having coffee with them right now. It's a Zoom call away, isn't it?
Yeah, but let's pick somebody from the living. I mean, somebody currently who's, who
currently living. Who would I want to have a chat with? I don't know. I think it would be. That's a tough one, man. Tell me, who would you go with?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is a tough one as well. Also, I don't know. I mean, you know Kevin Smith, right?
Yeah, of course.
He's a great pop culture geek, and he'd be a fun guy to sit down and have a chat with.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have fun, yeah, Kevin Smith is a good guy. But if you really want to come out of there wiser, then I'm not sure Kevin Smith is the guy.
Then I think, then we have the greatest, pop culture cinematic cannibal of all time, Tarantino.
Yeah, I think Tarantino would be amazing to me. I think he would be amazing. I would go with, yeah. But I want to balance it out not only with, you mean like from a pop culture perspective or a cinema perspective is what you're talking about specifically, right?
Whoever you feel that makes a difference and gives meaning to what creativity is, and you identify with.
Yeah, so for me, I think that person right now, maybe not right now, at least like maybe 10, 15 years ago, would have been Bono. Like,
yeah,
to a great, because I feel, again, his work is very it's like, it's about the human condition in music, and his, and I feel it really keeps making its way in to the work, which is also very good, and it's not like it's the best of both, the way he's balanced things out, I suppose, or U2 has, rather, not just him. And I like that, and I would like to get there where the work has meaning and relevance and is an agent of social change, even perhaps even to a slight degree. For me, that it becomes far more worth it than in that sense.
So Bono, huh?
Yeah.
Did you recently? It was his 60th birthday, so he put out 60 letters that he wrote to the people who created 60 of his favorite songs.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, he's up on the website on youtube.com. So he wrote about 60 songs that really changed his life, and to the songs whose creators are no longer alive, he addressed it to their family. Like, for instance, he wrote about Life on Mars by David Bowie, and he addressed it to Duncan Jones, who is David Bowie's son.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So there are 60 letters that are there, and he's written about each of those songs and what they mean to him. And
wow, that's really cool.
Just to hear him speak about those songs, it's just amazing. And it's everything. I mean, it's classic rock and roll. It's it's contemporary stuff. It's songs by Massive Attack and things like that as well. Also, so it's really, really great. I mean, he's written one to Parvati's son, and so yeah. So since you're a Bono fan, go check that out. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that sounds great. That's great reading material now.
To say nothing ventured, nothing gained. What probably would you say are the sacrifices that you've had to make for your, to get where you are, to get the things, to do the things that you want them to be done?
I think it is that misunderstanding you spoke about. Like, I've had to be a real hard ass to a lot of people uh, and try to defend the vision at the cost of a few relationships.
Okay.
I think that would be, and that's also my regret. I think because I don't know, I don't know if it's possible to make great cinema in a democratic manner. I don't know.
Yeah, because all the great.
I'm not saying that stuff is great. I'm just saying that's the aim, right? Like, so you have to keep going. Like, I know, like, say for example, Bansali is known to be a really tough guy.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
his crew and his cast,
Me.
things.
They should.
But he gets what he wants, and I may not like that stuff, but he gets what he wants, and that's what.
But then that's just a work process, right?
So,
I mean, yes, a lot of it comes from you setting the tone of who you are and how you want to get things done as well. So if Mr.
and
Bansali,
that if that level of professionalism existed in Bollywood, we'd be way better. But Bollywood and Hindi films or whatever we're doing runs on passion. It really runs on passion alone. There's no money for the longest time for anyone in this. There's no payoff. There are people coming in with nothing and they want to make it big. That's the only engine, the driver, the fuel that you have uh, in this business. And if it was about just going on set and everyone's listening to you, getting stuff done, and agreeing with things, but over here it's everyone's here because they want to be the best at who they are, and everyone's jostling for space when it comes to actors on screen, and everyone's like, the writers want it a certain way, and writers are upset with directors all the time. Directors are upset with producers all the time. Producers are upset with everyone all the time.
so what's been a typical day for you during these lockdown days? Like, what's your daily routine like?
And that's so there's wow. Okay, so it starts pretty early, 7:38, and then there's a lot of housework and uh,
You
cooking and things that needs to be done.
watching online content?
I don't get a lot of time to actually watch online content.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, no, because the mornings are like busy, like it's just setting up for the day basically, like lots of housework, this that. Uh, Kid needs to be fed, etc. Sometimes, and then I get to work at around 11:30 noon, go all the way till about 6. Then it's again with the lunch break in between. Work is damn hectic because it's a bunch of Zoom calls with writers,
Yeah.
and so or it's audio calls, which is much worse. I feel because if you're silent and you're thinking, this is a thinking thing, right? And you're sitting around and you're thinking. And if it's on audio, then you don't know what the other person is. Are they there? They're not there. Are they gone? Like, listen. So I've now made it a policy to only have video calls. So at least I know that we're in the middle of something, and you don't actually have to say something constantly and be 100% focused all the time. Because that's absolutely sapping, I feel. Because otherwise in writer's room, in real life, you were always sitting around and, oh man, I'm feeling so hungry, I'm feeling a little peckish, can we order some dessert? Oh, let's get some coffee, why don't we just move to Starbucks? That's what used to happen, right? And now, so we have nothing else to do, we just sit around and actually talk about work all the time, which is ridiculous. So that happens half the time, and the other half is spent writing, reading, work stuff. I'm working on multiple things. It's very exciting because I was luckily not in the middle of a shoot or prep or anything. So I was in a writing phase, and this has just only helped me in that sense. Then then it becomes a little flexible. The evenings are nice out here, so we spend some time doing exercising or sort of playing football with like 5-year-old football.
So
Then
fairly productive days then.
yeah. Then depends if there's more work. Then yeah. Otherwise, I just start winding down with like a book or watch something, which is I'm really like pooped by then.
So do you take the weekends off?
I do take Sundays off. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody would assume like, hey, everybody's sitting around doing nothing, so I might as well work. But you do need that little bit of detachment time, I guess.
Oh man, it's critical. I don't know how are you managing like I think
Well,
for actors it's a bit and performers it's a bit different.
yeah, I mean, because there is no performances happening, there are no shoots happening, so there perspective there is absolutely no work. But keeping oneself busy, yeah, I mean, content is one thing. Working on new music is one thing. Hashing out ideas that you might be able to get a audience with somebody who matters, so you can pitch them as well. Also, that is a distant dream which keeps being hammered at. And then you learn the virtues of being hygienic and keeping your house clean on your own, because you don't have house help. They've all
absolutely. No, I mean I don't have any help, and it's really it's nice. I think it's nice almost to
little
be
manual
able to
makes gives you a little bit of pause, and you think, okay, this is how the other half does what they do to survive. And for us, it's just a stopgap. So you get to have a little more respect.
I do miss people. I wouldn't say I don't. So there is that.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, the feeling of actually going to a bar and having a drink and just not making a point about, oh shit, now no one said anything for 30 seconds. I think it's time to hang up. Let's say that does not happen. So that awkwardness is something I don't think anyone's getting over anytime soon. But I enjoy those calls with friends and family.
Give us 3 films that you really like, that you've seen recently, that you would say is closest to what you're thinking of.
No, that's a giveaway. That's a giveaway.
Subterfuge is everything.
What are some of the good things you watched in the lockdown? Yeah?
Well, I don't know. Apart from the streaming stuff, there are these good. I mean, there are some fantastic international language thrillers that are there on the streaming. There's Spanish language thrillers that are there, which I've been watching. There's The Platform. There's Into the Night, which is a French series, which is really nice.
Yeah. Oh man, that one on the plane, right? Like it's where they're trying to outrun the sun.
Outside the sun. That's great. Into the Night.
It's on my watch list. Yeah.
I've been catching up a lot of also on on the Hindi films that I missed out on, which people said were nice, and just to get a little bit. I watched Dil Dhadkne Do because I hadn't seen it in theaters when it came out, and I watched Game as well also, which is Abhinay Dev's film, which came out many years ago, and I wanted to and it didn't do well, and I remember Farhan talking about it then when we were doing Rock On, that next week got Game coming up, things like that. So yeah, but that was a great attempt at a whodunit and a thriller as well also. So that was interesting.
It's a little bit weird that the Thai PM was speaking Hindi. That was. But I love Dil Dhadkne Do, man. I just love that movie. I could just keep watching that forever. It's a 2 hour 45 minutes. I could watch it for another 5 hours. Like it didn't bother me. Keep going, guys. Keep going. Do your thing.
That's great writing. I mean, whether you're a fan of the actors or not, or you're following or you agree with what the characters are doing or not, it's just fun to watch everybody, having fun. I mean, and that's
just like a super fun watch, man. Like I really like.
But yeah, Karan, thanks very much for taking the time out to speak to us, and I hope all you guys out there had a great time listening to Karan speak. He's a very enigmatic personality, and he's got a lot of aces up his sleeve, which he will एक-एक करके पत्ते बांटना शुरू कर देगा, वो आप फिक्र मत कीजिए. And we look forward to Mirzapur 2 and Inside Edge 3 as well also. And and all the best for everything, and thanks very much once again.
Thanks so much, Luke. It was great catching up with you. The last we met, I think, was in Georgia or something.
Yeah.
It was fun catching up. And thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. The Economic Times Listening Sessions with Luke Kenny, powered by Jack Daniels Merchandise.